open that up.
Hi, my name's Joel Pettis. I'm with the Ministry of Health, lead developer with the City project. So working with David, which you met earlier, and spoken with MCCS as well. So we're developing fire projects, really interested in fire, gone all in with fire, and of course, looking at smart on fire moving forward. Thanks.
Welcome, everybody. Any other first-time call-ups? You're like a radio host. Okay, well, welcome. I'm glad you're with us. If you don't have the meeting series and are interested in joining us on a monthly basis, please let me know. I'm happy to make sure that you have a copy of that in your calendars. Okay, so just going through our agenda. So welcome. Just a reminder, we do record these meetings, not because we need to have them for posterity, but with everybody's busy schedules, sometimes we get regrets from folks who aren't able to make it because of conflicts, and they really like to review what the conversation was that happened. On our agenda today is one topic, but it's a really important topic, and I have a feeling, I'm hoping that it's going to generate some really good discussion around kind of what's next. And then based on that, that's really going to set our agendas going forward. So what's next? What is needed by the Canadian Smart on Fire implementers community right now? I have some thoughts. Russ and I had a conversation last week around just sort of bouncing some different ideas off each other. So I wanted to start, because I just like to post questions to generate conversation. And then I'm just going to be taking notes right on these. So here's my first question for the group. We had Smart North last week, the week before, I can't even remember, keeping the days straight. For those of you who attended, did you hear about something at, Fire North? Did you hear about something at the Fire North conference that you want to keep exploring? So there's a couple of different Smart on Fire conversations happening, as well as just some, HL7 fire conversations happening, but really wanting to know like what at that conference really got your mind going in directions like, wow, that's something that we could really explore further from both a Smart on Fire perspective, as well as from a Canadian implementers community perspective. I'm just gonna pause and let's see if there's any thoughts around that. Okay, Irina has put in the chat patient summary. Irina, are you feeling comfortable to give a little bit more context around what it was you heard and what it was that you're interested around patient summary and Smart on Fire?
Yes. Well, it's just because it's related to a project we are working on in Ontario. It's and this topic was covered in Ontario context, but like how the IPS implementation in Canada will be used by other provinces, any lessons learned, anything we can do to ensure that we can implement the patient summary potentially in the Smart on Fire context. So we have not only the repository side implemented, but potentially in the future directions to vendors who are doing the consumer side, patient side, things like that. Because what I see right now, like in Ontario, we don't have a lot of pan-Canadian experience to rely on. So we kind of, or at least I didn't hear, and we kind of rely on information we are either inventing or trying to align with Infoway, who are also working on this project. But this topic, it looks like many provinces are working or thinking about it, and it's really interesting to see what other provinces are doing from security, terminology, data exchange, application perspective, and to have more information about it.
Thanks, Arena. Any other thoughts or interest or even potential use cases around patient summary and its uses from a Canadian context, as well as its relationship or sorry, I've got teenagers coming and going out of my house right now. Its relationship with the Smart on Fire application. Okay. Any other just general topics from Fire North that folks found really interesting, intriguing, see a real connection with Smart on Fire? Doug, I know you did a Smart on Fire presentation at Fire North, so I'm going to pick on you and ask, did you get any questions from folks attending your talk that made you really go,
It's a good question, Paula. I think you heard some of the questions at the end. Not a whole lot of follow-up, although I haven't really sought it out, I must be honest, just due to other commitments. But no, I think it was hard to read the room, the challenge of virtual conferences, as you see, but I think a lot of people are still just getting familiar with it. Like at the end, there was a question about, what that suggested that the whole point of it in a lot of ways, the single sign-on wasn't really a given. So I think just helping people understand what an effective multi-purpose tool it is for single sign-on and patient contextual launch is phase one. I think we're still in that. I'm really excited to hear the ministry representatives are here because I think it is the missing link, or at least for the front end aspect of integrations for EMRs across the province and hospital EHRs. So it just seems like it's an iterative thing where there's just a general increasing awareness and appreciation of its uses. But no, I didn't get a whole lot of specific questions. I'm still intrigued at the at what sort of developments are happening at the launching side of things, because I think the path forward for a lot of us is pretty clear for a client application. We just you just implement it, you get it working against the Smart Health IT sandbox, and then you look for people who can launch your app. So my main concern with the relevance, and not that it won't be relevant, but the overall success of Smart on Fire in Ontario, in Canada as a whole, is just the launching side and how strongly we can incentivize that across the province here and certainly out west. I think with certain large EMR vendors, it would be nice to help them, incentivize them to implement this standard. And I was expecting to hear a little bit more about that, or at least questions about how the implementation works. But yeah, I haven't really sought it out. But I think those are areas to explore here, if not elsewhere.
Okay, that is actually really helpful context, Doug, because that kind of helps lead me into a couple of the other sort of leading questions that I've prepared for this conversation. So when this group first started meeting, super early on, originally we were like, you know what, an iGuide, an implementation guide, a standard, anything out there, documentation would be great. And I still agree, it would be great. I don't see Russ on the call yet, so he's not here. Russ and I were talking about this, and we're like, we don't think we're quite there yet. A lot of what's happening around Smart on Fire outside of e-referral in Ontario, because e-referral within Ontario, we've really started to kind of dig our claws into it. Again, my awareness here was very narrow in scope. So if you know of other things happening in Canada, please feel free to interrupt and let me know. But I think we're still super early. I think a lot of questions around are like, what is Smart on Fire? How does it work? How does it connect to HL7 Fire? What are apps? What are you even talking about? And then the other question we get is like, do we know, is there a list anywhere of like who is currently implementing Smart on Fire in Canada? Like, I don't know. Do you know? Would a list of vendors and contact information be helpful? So that's my next question that I have here. Is there an easy way to identify Smart on Fire implementation in Canada? Would a list of vendors and contact information be useful? Could we include links of publicly available documentation? Again, I'm going to pick on some frequent contributors to this group. I know that CareDov and Cognizant MD have made their Smart on Fire documentation implementation guides available online. We know that some of the other HISs are starting to look at Smart on Fire. You know, would they be comfortable putting this information online? Like, can we use our Simplifier project to spread awareness of this to get a better understanding of the current state landscape within Canada before we really start tackling an iGuide? Because I don't think we have an understanding of what's out there right now, and open to people arguing against me on that or agreeing with me about that.
I'll speak up again, I guess, Paul. I think it's a great idea. I think I do know that Smart Health IT has a marketplace, although it's presumably international. I doubt there's any sort of Canadian focus there. So that's one option for getting the implementations on the radar. But I do think it would be nice to have a catalog of Canadian ones as well. I think it is really early days. So I think it's going to be a pretty short list on this. I could imagine there being many client apps. I don't think there's going to be a really large list of server launch applications. I think that is something that we should talk about as well, is how do we incentivize the construction of server launches, because it is really a huge implementation project, and it could be quite intimidating for a busy vendor. So I don't think we're going to see too many people on that catalog until we actually make it easier for them. So not to take away from your point, but I think I don't know, it would be good to do some brainstorming in terms of whether we can lobby for financial incentives. If you think about EMR certification procedures across the provinces, there's often some sort of monetary incentive or something to help vendors build tech that they wouldn't otherwise build, or at least otherwise would not put at the top of their product backlog priority list. So anyway, I'm just going to throw that idea out there as well.
Others?
HML here. May I add some comments?
Please.
Yeah, so unfortunately, I wasn't able to participate Fire North, so maybe that topic was already there. But I'd like to just simply reiterate what I mentioned a few meetings before when we just started. So ideally, I see some kind of app store to be built for on a pan-Canadian level, rather than each province trying to, or even each vendor trying to build their own place to post. So some kind of sandbox where the security experts may decide that this is the way for pan-Canadian applications to authorize, authenticate and authorize themselves. And so that any developer may actually try their own systems against that sandbox. So something similar does exist in the US. They do have App Gallery where vendors are able to post even paid applications, and they do have a smart box in the way how they see it. I don't know if it's if our vision is the same. We certainly can reference that particular website. Unfortunately, I don't have a link, at the moment. I can send it later. Or if we decide that in Canada, we need to consider some other security guidelines or policies which impact technical aspect of it, then we may build our own. And I see that CHI to be leading that work.
Sorry, what was the last point you made?
CHI, you mean? Canada House Infoway?
Yeah, Canada Health Infoway.
Mhm.
Oh, info, I see.
Actually, Mohawk College can help with that too, because I think since they were already sometimes leaders in the fire implementation, because the main question is who will pay for it, right?
Right.
And
Not just pay, but also support and maintain, and give some
Exactly.
technical support.
Yeah, and what you listed in US, the app galleries, the most popular ones are Cerner, Epic. It's gets paid from from the vendors who are listed on that store, and I've heard it's not actually cheap to list an application there. But because it's like the use of application, like if your application is used with Epic or Cerner, they get return on the investment. Where in Canada, I don't think it will be the same business model. So yeah, it would be great if Canada House Infoway would include this one, but I think Mohawk College would be our better bet because they're academic institution and they already have certain sandboxes, right? That help with Canadian standards. Yeah, it's our usual one. Who will be paying and maintaining?
Well, it means that we need to invite someone from Mohawk College. Otherwise, we
Yes.
kind of make a decision on their behalf. They certainly will not be happy to hear that.
Yeah, there is a group, I think it's Medic, I think groups that is like doing projects like this. And there was a presentation about it, Far North.
Okay.
So Arena, is that something that we could ask you to maybe look into to see if there is a connection with Mohawk College that you could make between this group and them to see if maybe we can have one of their members join our working group?
I am not connected to those people. Maybe Russ Buchanan has, because they organize the Fire North. Maybe they're close to that group. I just saw the presentation about them.
Is that the same group that built Everest tool?
I believe so, and they also have there's several tools built used in African projects as well.
Rena, not to take away all the great work that Mohawk does, but what makes you think Infoway wouldn't be well equipped to do this sort of work?
It's not that they're well equipped. It's harder for them, like if to get it on their timelines and budgets, right? Because it's really should be a provincial initiative or something that would have a strong reason, right? Strong request, right? Just from my experience, how those projects start, where the academic institution has a bit of a more freedom to put something on their timelines because they use it to educate their specialists, right? And their timelines would be allowing us to get the faster than through Infoway. If I'm wrong, if Infoway already has it's under radar and is I'm happy if it happens with Infoway. It's definitely a proper organization for those kind of initiatives. It's just if they don't have it right now on the radar, we might wait for a few years before they get it. Right?
So am I getting it right that we actually have two streams of discussion here? One is the purely technical, like what would be the best way, to implement something, and another is goes to financial and policies. What policies we need to include or consider, and who will be paying for that? So these are, to
True.
me, sounds like two different streams.
Yeah, you cannot say they are not related, right? The financial implementation often a deciding factor, right?
Right. So we
Unless
should-
Shamil wants to volunteer his time and create us something on GitHub.
well, I'm trying to volunteer and create. Unfortunately, it's not going as fast as we want. Even if the ministry might have a budget to implement that, still requires to bring everyone on the same page.
Yeah, this is why I'm saying
Doing that on a
sometimes-
pan-Canadian
yeah.
level might be even harder.
Exactly. That's why I'm saying the
Right.
academic institutions sometimes is a better bet, because academic institutions use it as a use case to prepare better students, right?
Yeah, agree, totally agree. But at least if we would have something like App Store and Sandbox, which we can even present on the next Fire North, or try to for everyone to try how smart authorization might work. That certainly can be quite helpful, even if we later on
yeah.
decide that this is not the way to do it.
Can we speak with people who maintain the smart house in US to see if that can be used internationally and we can post there?
Well, that's likely Josh Mandel, so
Yeah.
certainly we may connect to him, even that's this something that's hard to do. It's key.
In this case, we don't have to invent something Canadian, right? We can
Right.
be aligned. Yes, those are Canadian vendors, and I'm pretty sure that some are already there, but we are closer to international implementation.
Yeah, but the question will be if we want to follow what they built, or if we want to follow their policies, because I believe somewhat their policies are embedded or included into Sandbox and App Store's requirements. So again, I'm kind of theorizing, but it might be something that prevents us using it. For example, in BC,
we
there
don't
is a
know
policy.
that.
Yeah, in BC, there is a policy that patient data or information shall not leave BC. So, which means that any app brought from outside needs to go through a security audit or something like that.
Yeah, one thing, another thing, like if it's an application that does not store data but does the calculations or display of information, which Smart on Fire can do, right? It's not always uses the repository outside.
Okay, so I'm hearing three different kind of possibilities / options. So the first one is, oh, and my internet connection is unstable. I apologize if I cut out. We need to look for sponsor opportunities. So I'll put it right out there. Right now, there is no money on this table. Nobody is paying me to chair. Nobody's paying you to attend. Nobody's paying anybody to volunteer, that sort of thing. Like this is all, just work that we know that is important. And so we're gathering here together to try and make that happen. So if you're aware of any sponsorship opportunities via InfoWay, via Mohawk, via some initiative grant out there. Hi, am I back? Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, you're back.
Okay, sorry. I'm going to cut my video to hope I don't. Where did I cut out?
Just at the beginning when you started with the first option.
Okay, yeah. So the first option is you need a sponsor. We don't have one. There's no money on the table. Nobody's paying me to chair this meeting. Nobody's paying you guys to attend. Like we're all here because we know Smart on Fire is the way of the future. And this is where we want to go with healthcare. So I'm open to exploring any different sponsorship opportunities, InfoWay, Mohawk, whatever grant might be out there. So I think that's going to be my first action item. And if you can note this, is that if anybody is aware of any potential sponsorship opportunities, avenues, contact people, please send them to me. Let me know. I'm more than happy to explore those on our behalf and see if there's any potential money we can get on the table out there. Does that Is everybody kind of kosher with that idea?
Yep.
Any objections?
Nope.
Okay, awesome. Second option is, should we look at potentially adding Canadian content to Smart Health IT? So my understanding is that there's some potential implications because it's hosted in the United States, but let that be one of the considerations of like the pros and cons. Is this an avenue that we as a group would be willing to explore, or are you 100% against this and want to do something that is Canadian specific? And again, there are no wrong answers here. I am open to anybody's opinion on this.
My opinion is I highly recommend that. It's a benefit for Canadian vendors to be exposed to international community because, as all of us know, our market is small. And if we have not very specific use case, but clinical use case that can be applicable to the whole North America or North America and Central America or anything in other country, I think that's a benefit for Canadian vendors, incentive for Canadian vendors to be featured on the international market, as well as since that implementation is already available, it also cuts our development time for our own sandbox. We are like, the idea was Fire to be more standard oriented, right? To have less of provincial variations, like national variations, and to be as much as possible compatible with international standards, right? So the future is, as you said, Smart on Fire, but the future is like without borders, right? That's my opinion.
I second that.
Totally agree.
Yeah. Oh, Pauline, on the last meeting, somebody was advocating a Smart on Fire launcher, new one, but there were so many existing ones. So I follow Irina's thinking that we should lean on the mainstream things and build the apps, and only if there is need, then we branch off rather than branching off from the beginning. But that's my opinion.
Yeah, the only reason I mentioned that, Daniel, is if you look at the outpatient market, for example, there isn't a full market-leading EMR that supports it right now. So I think it's a pretty big issue. Granted, I mean, I think they will come as the incentives grow, and I think this catalog is an important aspect of that. But I do think it's going to hold us back unless we can face that issue head on at some point.
So I was
But
just
I
thinking,
don't want to derail the meeting. I do agree that I don't feel like we have to sort that out.
yeah. So what I've seen, like I'm new to healthcare IT, but like in the IT in general, what I've seen, if you plan too much, you can never predict what's going to go wrong. Just try to MVP everything we can, and then only then, when it's final roadblock, then we branch off. So I wouldn't be interested in the new launcher, for instance.
Yeah, I agree with Irina. And it actually would be interesting to hear or maybe bring some developer, if there is already any Canadian smart app on that US gallery, to hear to this meeting, to hear their experience or voice. The only concern that I truly have is that that smart app and sandbox is built based on US policies, not on Canadian policies. So those needs to be revised or compared with our policies if we have anything that contradicts with what they have.
I don't think they built around US policies. I think they are less policy oriented, but I agree with you. We need to do the gap analysis or consider that. Or if we bring any vendor, if we are able to contact any vendor from there, we can ask them if there's anything that is other than, of course, security policies that definitely could be a showstopper, but not on the gallery level, I would say. On implementation, yes, the vendor might need to show that, okay, I'm conformant to Canadian policies, or I'm conforming to BC policies, or I'm conforming to US policies. Yes, but from the gallery publication, it's really a marketplace.
Well, it's marketplace, but it means that we are not managing that marketplace. So for example, if someone has posted an app that does something, well, let's say useful or useless, it doesn't matter. But that app, for example, downloads the patient data and stores it somewhere, for example, outside of Canada, then how can we prevent that to happen? Should we contact
Okay,
the
Shamil,
smart app?
I'm gonna just pause you right there. We're getting like
Right.
way into the weeds.
Okay.
Those are very important
Certainly agree,
questions.
but
We're
as
not right there
Arina
yet.
said, as
Yeah.
Arina said, we need to do a gap analysis and see
Yeah.
how it
Okay.
works.
All right. So other opinions on exploring the possibility of having Canadian apps on Smart Health IT, or maybe finding out or hearing from Canadian apps that are already on Smart Health IT. Looking for thoughts from people who haven't contributed to the discussion so far.
I like realistically, as has been said for the most part, I think in this technology, we're pretty beholden to the way that the US does things anyway. So it just makes so much sense to leverage the resources that are out there, like Smart Health IT. If we try and have the idea of building our own infrastructure for this kind of thing, like it's just not going to happen. Especially given that I'm not hearing any funding enthusiasm anywhere that anybody is aware of.
That doesn't mean we're not going to try. We will
Yeah,
continue to try, but
Absolutely. Just one more consideration when building. In addition to building, we have to market it, right? And one thing is that Smart Health IT, everyone knows already who is in Fireplace. They already know that website. They know how to deal with it. It's tested. Where we will have to start from the beginning. We like it very much in Canada.
If there's one thing to do along that lines of marketing, it might be quite simply creating a just a website, right? A Canadian website that says, hey, here's the inventory of Canadian smart apps, but then you go and find the app over on Smart Health IT. It's literally just a link or a pointer to the ones that we create an inventory are that exist, right? Like here's a dozen Canadian apps. They're great. Go check them out on Smart Health IT. And here's why Canadian, Smart on Fire apps are amazing. And that's really a marketing question as opposed to worrying about all the technology of, managing the hosting of sample smart apps.
That's a good idea. I really like that because there are other galleries. It's not the only one. So we should have a landing page for Canadian content within the group somewhere. So it attracts people to this group and then branches them off where the apps are.
Yeah. And that's easy to do.
awesome, which really ties in nicely to the third point that I was going to have. So before we move on to that one, do I have a volunteer to look into Smart Health IT further for us and see if they can contact a Canadian app vendor who has an app listed on Smart Health IT to come and talk to us? I'm not going to be able to make all of this happen on my own. I do need a volunteer for a couple of different other avenues that we're going to explore as a group.
I can try to help you, but it's part-time.
Yeah, Shamil here. I certainly tried to follow up with Josh Mandel or whoever is currently maintaining or managing Smart App in US and see how we can work with them.
Awesome. So Daniel and Shamil, would you guys be willing to sort of partner up on that one action item and see what you can bring back to our group?
Okay, Shamil, let's connect. Yeah.
Awesome. And don't worry about it being part-time, Daniel. Everything is part-time we all have full-time jobs in other avenues. This is why we
the meetups I attend are normally after work. This is the only meetup that's during work. So I'm on and off.
All right. Well, a lot of the people in this group have little kids, so we like to end all of our meetings before the end of the business day. All right. So then that leads us into very nicely into the third part, which is, okay, so then how do we have a place to store apps and sandboxes, and that's great, and we can link them. So then how do we then collate all this information? to be like, okay, here is Smart on Fire in Canada as we know it today. We have Simplifier out there, which is a good place to store projects. I don't know if that's ideal. Should we just go out and buy a WordPress site? And any thoughts around that?
Oh, I can sponsor a site.
Oh,
No
Tim, you're
problem
awesome.
Yeah, just as long as we got some assistance with the content on it, I can certainly sponsor
Yes.
the technology side of it.
You can even throw sponsored by CareDev at the bottom if you want to.
Sure.
I have no objections with that. Okay, so then my action item to everybody on this call and basically everybody on the distribution list will be, please spam me with all the Canadian Smart on Fire implementations that you are aware of. And I will, and if somebody wants to assist me along this line, that would be great, but I'm fairly decent at the administrative side of things. I will reach out to all of them and say, hey, this is who we are. This is what we're trying to do. We're going to put a website together. We're going to try and see if we can get your apps up on Smart Health IT. Are you interested in joining us? And I'll put together formal terms of reference or something that we can all sort of agree upon. But it would really, really great if I could get somebody to sort of help me with this reach out part too. But again, I know you guys are super busy. However, the first part, can you please all just spam me with everything that you're aware of as far as Smart on Fire in Canada? Is that like a action item we can all agree on?
Mhm.
Awesome.
So Paula, it's Karen Harris here from Orion Health. Just
Yes.
a question around that. So you talked about actual implementations of Smart on Fire, but would it not also be useful to know if vendors have the capability already? They may not have the opportunity to implement anything yet because of funding or a project or something. But I think, as you know, in the United States, they with the ONC, they have mandated, and it's law based on the Cures Act in the US, that certain level of Smart on Fire has to be implemented by vendors. So there are some US vendors that also play in the Canadian space who have to have Smart on Fire capabilities. So I don't know if that's useful to also know.
I think a coming soon or in development or is probably fair game for this kind of site, even if there's something that's not deployed yet. Let people know where they can go talk to about certain types of capabilities for getting Smart on Fire apps. Seems like a good idea. Certainly only put it on if you're serious about having about completing it. We don't want it to be too vaporware, but if someone's definitely got it in their pipeline and just waiting for a customer, then I think that's fair game.
Anything beyond conceptual, how's that?
Yeah.
Built, tested, ready to go, just waiting for an implementer.
And the use cases around what has been implemented would be probably pretty good too, right?
Yes, vendors, contact information, use cases. Thank you. That is very important. And then if they agree to it, links to contact information, links to publicly available documentation, maybe eventually a link to the Canadian section on Smart Health IT, who knows? Okay. Let me just see my questions to ask questions. Oops, wrong. I have far too many things open. There it is. Okay. That was all of the questions that I had specifically around getting the word out there about current Smart on Fire implementation. So before I continue, any other questions, comments, suggestions for that item specifically? Okay, awesome. I think we've made really good progress on next steps for that and for something that I think is really important for implementers or the potential implementers community right now. So thank you everyone for those comments. My next questions are a little bit more abstract, but I think they sort of go along the same line. So I have heard heard through the grapevine, and I can't really confirm this because I'm not a developer, that sometimes chat.fire.org and some of the other fire chats that happen out there can be somewhat intimidating for new implementers. I don't know if it's like Facebook for developers or whatever, but I was wondering if this group here could commit to being a safe space for new implementers to come and ask questions, as well as being a forum for developers to bounce ideas off each other. And that is something that I would like to publicly declare on this website that we put together. So it's not only like a list of Canadian vendors and contact information, everything, but somewhere in there we're like, hey, we have this group, this community of practice, and we want you to know that if you're a complete newbie and you don't even know what Smart on Fire is, all the way up to like, I need to know about OAuth 2 token, blah, 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 blah. Is that something that this group would be appropriate for? Or is that something that maybe we should parcel off into a subgroup of just developers that can chat in their own space? Because that might also be appropriate as well. Whatever it is that we land on, I don't want somebody, because Smart on Fire is so new, especially in Canada, I don't want somebody to come in and be like, whoa, I'm way over my head, I can't even get started, right? Because that's the worst feeling for somebody brand new to this space to experience. And at the same time, we have some almost mature or somewhat mature implementations that have taken place or are taking place. And you know, sometimes they need to bounce ideas off each other. Maybe you already do that on Slack and we don't need that space, right? Again, just a couple of conversation starters I thought I would throw out there.
I like that. As casual forum, like people that can help one another when get stuck and maybe triaging the new guys. So my currently problem would be like I can develop in Epic Sandbox and start Smart on Fire up there, but I don't know how to look into my chart record here because 3 months Richmond Hill Hospital wouldn't give me URL. So there is something Canadian, that's Canadian problem because in US they have to publish all endpoints, here they don't, and it's hidden.
Yeah.
So I'm all in, but it will be more triaging, dispatching place for new people, orientation kind of group. The knowledge is there. I'm quite new to this space. I know I felt intimidating that I'm gonna ask something stupid, those big guys. So I'm shadowing them on all these meetups and just listening and soaking in the knowledge. So I can help triage that further to the new guys, up to me.
Amazing. Other thoughts?
I think the big question on this is like really is around tooling to support it. You know, there can be, you know, meetings and there's what are the various means you can do this? You can do meetings and meetups where people just can come in and there's some gurus who can answer questions, or you can do more asynchronously. You know, you could create a channel in chat.fire.org that's specifically for intro to Canadian developers. That could be a thing. Or if you want to keep it out of that, it could be like I think everyone uses Slack these days. So there could be like a Slack workspace that people could join, and you know, if people are paying attention, can go in and add, you know, ask their questions. And if there's enough people who pay attention to the questions in Slack, you sort of need a bit of a critical volume of senior experienced people on the topic in the Slack channel for it to be useful, because I've seen this done before where it's like, you know, 200 members and still nobody's answering questions in Slack, right? So it's a bit risky. I find it a bit easier to be responsive in Slack than in Zulip in chat.fire.org. But chat.fire.org seems scary, but it's actually, you know, they're actually quite they're actually quite gentle with newcomers. I remember the first time I asked a dumb question in there, and the answer was like, well, that's not how I read the documentation. I read it more like this. I said, oh, thank you. That's a very gentle response to my dumb question.
So I like both ideas. Like I run Slack channel for serverless Toronto user group. There is no activity. There is so many Slack channels, people don't come there. So it's easy to set up. We can be there to network, but I rarely find anything else like Zulip. If you're into Fire, you would go there probably. And if that separate channel can keep us toggled. And these meetups are good as well. So, or I don't know. So I like both of your ideas, but I don't think second one will take off because it didn't for me in 4 years.
Yeah. It feels like a good idea, but
Yeah, everybody does that. It's crowded, so everybody has
Yeah,
Slack. And just
exactly.
pop-ups and you're annoyed and turn it off and don't go there,
Yeah.
like Twitter or Facebook.
Yeah.
Also, as you said, it's always someone to answer on Zulip, even when sometimes they don't know the Canadian context, but it's either someone from people who used to be new and now not new and they know the answers, they will answer. Or we have Lloyd Mackenzie, who always there. He lives, sleeps, dreams, eats with Zulip chat. He always answers.
He's crazy.
Yeah. Yes, we work with Lloyd together. He is a fantastic, hardworking person. Yeah, and this is the place where I always send. Like, if a person is new, it's not only for Canadian context. If the developer is new, I always send them to Zulip chat because it's one thing you will have a question about Canadian context, but you also will have tons of questions about other implementation details. And usually, developers like when it's in one place versus it's in multiple places. We can do Stack Overflow. Shamil and I, we are participating in a Russian group, but that one in Telegram, I think it only lives because some people don't know English. Otherwise, they would be on Zulip. Canada is the same language, so creating additional place where they can ask questions, yeah, it's possible, but I'm not sure it will be popular.
Sorry, can somebody enlighten me? What is Zulip chat?
It's chat.fire.org.
Yeah.
Oh,
Same thing.
thank
Yeah.
you. Okay.
Just
It's
the old
just a-
name.
Zulip is a tool. You can install the app and you can work from your cell phone. But if the online is chat.fire.org.
Thank you. So it's the same thing.
It used to be a different link before.
So Irina, that's your homework. Create a channel for us.
It's actually, I think it's easy. I'm pretty sure we might already have.
I feel like John Wills created a channel and then immediately was questioned as to why he created that.
Yes, there are
Perhaps by Lloyd.
actually 19. There are 19 new messages for me, at least, in Canadian channel. We have quite a number of topics already there.
I've got
Yeah,
a
but-
channel for Canadian e-referral, Canadian Healthcare Service Directory. I'm not currently subscribed to a Canadian Fire one, if it's there.
So there is a channel called Canada,
Oh, just Canada. Okay.
Ontario Surgical Wait Time, Canadian SNOMED Edition, Synthetic Patient Generator Hiring, How do patients request, Canadian Baseline Fire Profiles, Fire North, and all
So
the
we have
nice
Canadian Smart
stuff.
on Fire. Oh, am I still sharing my screen? Can you guys see
Mhm.
this? Yes. So yeah, John created that and there was a question. Wow, is there specific interest? Okay, so we have a channel.
We
You
do.
guys wanna subscribe to our channel? I'm gonna put it in our chat right now.
So,
Well,
but which one is it? We have too
subscribe.
many choices now. We have Canada and Smart on Fire. Which one do you want us to be?
Well, there's
No, that's
Canadian
completely different.
e-referral, Canadian Healthcare Service Directory. So those are two different things.
Yeah.
Canadian Smart on Fire.
And Canadian Core, I see, is there too.
I see Canada / Canada.
Yeah, that's one of them.
Also Canada. Yes, there's 5.
Okay, we already overloaded the system.
Yeah, the good thing nobody will kick you out of Zulip. Anyone can create any topic.
So which one? Okay, you boss, Paulina. Where do you want us?
Everywhere. Just search for anything that
If
has a
there's
word
someone,
Canadian.
if there's someone who's like a Canadian just starting with Fire generically, that would be go to the Canada one. The rest of these are all project specific.
Mhm,
Mhm.
mhm,
All right, they're much more targeted and narrow.
mhm.
So if we were to promote a safe place for newbies and experienced developers alike to specifically talk Smart on Fire in Canada, can we agree to use this channel? And this is what we're going to post on our sponsored by CareDev website.
Yeah,
Mhm.
if you want to, if it's safely talking Smart on Fire, go to the Canadian Smart on Fire channel in Zulip, I would say, not the Canada one. Mhm.
Mhm.
Okay. Any objections to that?
Nope.
All right. Wow, we covered all of my topics today. Guys, this is so great. And I have 5 minutes to spare. All right, and I think we've made a lot of really good progress. So I do apologize. We're not getting an iGuide. But as I learned from Tim's presentation at Fire North, there's a lot of things you need for a successful iGuide, and I had none of them. And I was like, I'm going to fail. So
My presentation had impact. Oh boy.
But I think we have something that's realistic and something that is going to be helpful, and is something that is, if it's not going to fail, at least it's going to put something out there that will help somebody who's Googling Smart on Fire in Canada. What do I need to do? Or something along those lines. And it's going to involve the participation of everybody around the table as well, and folks who aren't here too. So please, yes, sponsorship opportunities, Smart on Fire, almost ready for implementation and ready for implementation for all sorts of different use cases. Spam me. Let's try and get some content out there. Daniel and Shamil, I'll lean on you guys to really explore the smart health IT avenue and see how we can take advantage of that, or whether or not it's even a good idea for us or not. It's sounding like it is a good idea, but there might be some security concerns that we need to add an asterisk around for sure, right? Okay. Any other thoughts and questions? Comments? Are you finding these meetings useful? People keep showing up, so I'm hoping the answer is yes.
It is,
But if-
yes.
Thank you. If you have any ideas around like what we can do as a community, please let me know. My only goal is to make this succeed and be useful, and I hope that I'm helping out in that space somewhat. So please, no areas unsafe for you to ask or comment on for me. I have a very thick skin. All right.
Thank you.
On that note, I will bid you all adieu. It's pouring rain over here. I got to check to see if my basement is flooding again. Otherwise,
Ooh.
yeah, I know it's been a rough couple of weeks.
Sorry about that.
So thanks everybody for coming out again. Looking forward to hearing from a lot of you in between, and we will chat with you in 1 month on, this is why I write it down, Monday, November the 22nd at 2 p.m.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, folks.
Thank
Have a great
you.
day.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.